Hi, welcome to EDSC 551. This is Professor Bobo, and it is week six. This week, you guys are focusing on chapters 11 and 12. And on chapters 11 and 12, we're talking about anxiety and social skills groups. So, with our anxiety groups, anxiety is becoming increasingly and intensely high stakes academic enrichment for our students, especially after COVID-19. Children are experiencing anxiety at much higher rates than we have before. So while anxiety has been around for many, many years, the symptoms of anxiety are typically manageable at first, but they can quickly escalate to worsening symptoms. So our goal as school counselors is to make sure that we provide some strategies within the school day to decrease those anxious feelings and give the students ways of managing and identifying those feelings throughout the day. So I'm going to be sharing my screen with you in regards to where anxiety kind of fits in our symptom of our multi-tiered system. So in this area, we're in the tier 2 section, which is the area of small groups, okay? Because tier 1 again is where we give our district curriculum and where we focus on all those other different strategies or groups or information that we give to all students. Then in our tier 2 section, we're sectioning off and we're using data. We're collecting the data and we're gathering those students who need reinforcement with specific skills. And then how we go about collecting those students, what needs assessment did we use, what pre and post tests did we use to within the small group to measure how successful we are in teaching those strategies, okay? Um, we have to kind of identify who needs those tier 2 supports and how would we know? And we justify what certain students receive tier 2 supports and others who may qualify but don't get those services. All right. So we might want to consider, like at this point, how we're creating systems that use attendance, engagement, behavior data, and outcomes. Okay. So remember that the supports in the tier are just that. They're interventions, they're supports, they're not students. So we definitely want to remember that. So here's some ways to identify tier 2 students. Predetermined data metrics. The book kind of focuses on that, ensuring that the tier 2 intervention is aligned to program and school-wide goals like LCAP and making sure students don't get missed, making sure they're more objective than referrals and less implicit bias, and they help to prioritize practitioners' use of time. We also want to have referrals. Useful data doesn't show the need. Use caution with high levels of subjectivity. Um, Cultural implications, implicit bias often result in over referrals, and evaluate your referral data as often as you can. So this is an example of a basic watch list developed at the end of a 6-week period for a counselor who was looking at GPAs. All right. And so when we're basically just looking at GPAs, we're not really looking at the whole child. So there could be some things that go wrong when we look at just straight GPAs in order to do an academic intervention support. Um, So we want to make sure with the tier two being data driven at the tier two does not mean waiting for the data to come from the teachers or referrals, and that we need to be proactively collecting that data and aligning the data metrics with the district's priorities and school-wide goals and school-wide counseling programs. All right. Next, I wanted to talk about the Closing the Gap Action Plan. This is also in the ASCA resource, and the Closing the Gap is based on student group needs. And so here is an example of a reclassification for EL students using the Closing the Gap Action Plan results and report. And this helps to drive our experiences. We want to use any metrics that are aligned with our school improvement plan. So we want to align our tier two qualifiers with other schools across the district or county for, great impact. All right. So this was an example of at-risk indicators, the different grade levels, the criteria, how often the data was collected, and then sources used to gather the data. So these are two examples in high school, and then this is the elementary middle school. And this was an example from Imperial County and how they used it over time. Okay. So those are examples of how to collect the data in the group. And then the book kind of focused on that. And it gave us specific lesson plans that students can, that counselors can use to start shaping up these small groups and how we're going about collecting the information for the small groups. Again, school counseling is competing with the academic groups. So we have those students that need those academic groups to improve their test scores. And then also they have anxiety. So we've got to kind of match the two together and really be able to not take up too much of that student's extra time. And how much extra time do they actually have? Because we need to address both things, the anxiety as well as the low scores and lack of understanding the material due to the fact of the anxiety. The anxiety makes them miss the classes frequently, and so they're not there to receive the information, therefore they fall behind, and then their grades and credits are affected by all of that. So this is like a cycle that we see, and we've got to figure out how to address all of these issues, all right? So this is week 6. This week you guys are working on your the assignments that you will be turning in is your discussion board, as well as you will be turning in your group meeting observation. Okay, so you're going to observe a group meeting. And again, that meeting does not have to be at the educational level. It can be any group. And you guys are going to focus on writing up the dynamics of that particular group according to the rubric. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, I will see you week 7.